Okay, good morning. Today's class is Success in success of the soldiers and all the hostages to come home. And may God help us and heal us all from everything. Today, actually, we're talking about healing today. We're actually talking about healing. By the way, please share and rate the podcast. We're going to have a Shabbaton in the Palm Beach Synagogue this week. And that's it for the announcements. We have a very special guest today. We have Roy Kimia from LA. He's an acupuncturist. He studied Chinese medicine. He personally gave me a session when I was in LA. And me and Roy happen to be friends. We've been friends for a couple of years. And I thought it would be great for him to come on the show. Whatever this is, a podcast show, whatever we want to call it. But definitely, I definitely believe in Chinese medicine, acupuncture. I'm a big believer in it. I definitely connect my hisbodedut to my emotions. And what we're really going to talk about today is obviously what suppressed emotions happens. What happens to our body when our emotions become suppressed. I myself recently was going through some spleen deficiency, which destroyed my stomach and gave me anxiety, and I had no idea where it was coming from. And then I went to an acupuncturist. He showed me I had an imbalance in the spleen deficiency, which if you have an imbalance in spleen deficiency, you're too cold. That means everything's cold. That means you can't eat raw food. You can't eat. So I was eating sushi. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I had to fix it with hot foods and acupuncture. And I just thought it was fascinating that, if you go to a normal doctor, he'll just give you here a Zantac. He'll put you on where Chinese medicine treats the imbalance in the body. And that's why I think all of us, first welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I know we've been 5 years, 6 years, we've been friends. And Reb Nachman definitely speaks about the four elements and the four organs. So let's talk about practically talk about the four elements and how that's connected one by one, if you would like.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank you so much for having me today. I'm very grateful for you and all the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. Really helped me in my personal life, in my wellness center, and helping people, and so I appreciate you very much. So that's first Hakarat Tov. And as we see in this parsha, we gotta jump into things. So you're right, jumping into things.
Right into things, exactly.
We're jumping into it. So the 5 elements in acupuncture is a framework of how the body works and how the different organs are connected with each other and how they influence one another. So basically, there's 5, which it connects to the liver, heart, stomach, lungs, and kidneys. And that has to do with wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And basically, when they're in balance, things are smooth, things are flowing, things are happening. But when they're off balance, you get this type of things like stomach indigestion, right. You get different anxiety and so forth. So I wanted to maybe go each one and break down, right. Give examples of what they're about, and discuss how we can help ourselves to make them better and to put them back in balance.
So I guess everything is dis-ease. Dis-ease means there's a lack of ease. So anytime there's like a dis-ease, there's a lack of harmony between the elements. And this is just before we go into this. Reb Nachman spoke about these 4 elements. He says he speaks about 4 elements. I guess there's a 5th element with wood that I've not seen. But as far as the Torah talks about 4 elements.
Right.
And each element represents Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the Torah's portion is basically when there's an imbalance in one of our, for example, there's excessive anger, that affects obviously the liver, and that throws everything off. So it's funny how to see the whole. Go ahead, please start.
So that's the first one we're talking about is actually the liver, which has to do with the emotion of anger, and Rabbi Nachman does speak about that, and the Rambam also speaks about that. It's basically when it's in balance, you're creating, you have a vision, you're planning. Your decision making is clear, but when it's off balance, you get stressed out easily. Your neck tightens up, your shoulders tighten up. You get a tendency to clench your jaw, grind your teeth, and you might become irritable and prone to even temper and headaches. So I see that a lot, with patients that come into the office. They're saying, I'm so stressed out. I'm having rib pain. I had a patient that came in and he was dealing with rib pain, and his mother just passed. He was angry about it.
Right, suppressed stuff.
He was suppressing it, and it became, when you suppress the anger, it becomes depression.
Right.
So he was depressed, he was having this pain, he didn't know how to deal with it, and basically with the acupuncture, we're able to move this chi stagnation.
Got it.
The famous diagnosis is liver chi stagnation. Like we said, dis-ease, right? It's not moving, it's not flowing. With the acupuncture,
Or it's not flowing the right way.
It's not flowing the right way.
Correct.
Yeah, it's stagnant.
Because fire is good. Fire is passion. Fire is
Right.
energy. But if it's not flowing the right way, it becomes inward, and you're cooking inside.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly. So that's we see that, as well as other disorders such as, for women, menstrual issues, lower abdominal pain, and so forth. So some of the tips that you can do to help with it, obviously acupuncture is one of them. Herbs is another part of it. There's herbs that help with the liver flow, with the chi flow, to regulate the flow. You also have...
does that lead to heart, because it's fire, would lead to heartburn and stuff like that?
So yeah, there is an aspect called, which I'm going to get to when we get to the stomach, but there is an aspect of the liver overacting on the stomach.
Got it.
So you have a situation where you're so stressed that it's affecting your digestion. You get abdominal pain, you get indigestion, constipation, all sorts of stomach issues. So the way to keep it going, keeping the flow moving, is incorporate vigorous exercise, like you always talk about.
Right.
Running. For this type of person, he needs more of a vigorous exercise rather than just, relaxing or yoga type of thing. He needs more of a movement, boxing, things like that. Another way to help it is certain foods that you eat. Green foods, sour flavor foods help with the liver, help nourish the liver.
What hurts the liver? What would hurt it?
Alcohol,
Okay.
coffee,
Obviously,
sugar.
anything more it makes sense. Anything you can't keep on lighting the fire. Obviously,
Right.
Caffeine, sugar, alcohol, just you keep on lighting it. It needs to calm down.
Right.
Interesting. And obviously, the emotion of the main spiritual issue of anger is definitely control. If you have an issue with control, you're gonna have an issue with anger. So that's on the spiritual issue. To heal, you need to give up control to God instead of thinking you're in control. Because losing control leads to anger. So you could see a lot of in my recovery center, you'll see when there's anger, there's always an alcohol addiction. And there's always some kind of, I've lost control in my life. And that led to that. So that's why we have to keep the fire. We got to keep the fire in heaven, not keep the fire inside of us. Beautiful.
So the next one is actually the heart,
Okay.
which has to do with anxiety, the emotion of anxiety. And we see if a person is balanced, he's passionate, he goes after things, he's strong-willed, he inspires others, he has charisma, he's creative, he has wisdom. But if it's unbalanced, you become overexcited and you experience anxiety symptoms and have even difficulty sleeping because you're so hyped up. I had a patient, especially now with after October 7th, I'm seeing it a lot in the clinic. She came in and she had all these heart palpitations and insomnia and feeling of anxiety and poor memory. She couldn't even think. And there's a connection between the heart and the kidney called the kidney and heart not harmonized. And when that happens, you can't sleep at night because you don't have the kidney rooting you down. That's unbalanced because kidney has to do with fear. That's affecting the heart.
The heart is joy, right?
The heart is joy.
Right.
Yeah, but if it's off balance, then the nervous system is off balance. So what we do is we help her, again, with the acupuncture, release some of those anxieties, help her with some herbal medicine to help calm the nervous system, and slowly, that energy calms down.
Again, on the spiritual level, the solution for that would be talking to God. That's why prayer of the heart is medication of the heart.
Yeah.
Prayer is medication of the heart. So talking it out to God instead of settling your mind down. It's funny how it's actually called prayer of the heart. So it's funny how when we lack prayer, there's an imbalance.
Avodat Halev.
Amazing concept.
Yeah.
And also that Rav Nachman says that the heart also is the CEO of the whole body.
Right.
So if the heart's off, it basically the whole commanders are off. Like if the CEO is out of commission, if the emotion's out of commission of love, like if you lack the love of God, if you're missing that, everything else is just going to be completely knocked out.
Right, and same with the Chinese medicine. It talks about the heart being the emperor of all the organs. Right. It sends
same concept.
Same concept, exactly.
Why do you? I know that in Kabbalistic, the Baal Shem Tov used to take a person's pulse, and he used to see exactly what was wrong with the person through the spiritual malady. And I know also when I went to acupuncture, they took my pulse, and they fast pulse, slow pulse,
right.
And they were able to dictate because of the pulse what was wrong with the alignment. Explain how the pulse is related to all of this.
So it's interesting. There is 3 pulses on each side of the body. Of when you use you put your hands on your hand, there's 3 pulses connect to 3 different organs. So on the left side you have the heart, the liver, the kidneys, and if you touch it, you can see there's a difference. And if somebody might be, excited or have that heart fire or too excited, you can see the pulse will be fast, it'll be rapid, it'll be strong. They call it a wiry pulse almost. So you can feel that tension in the body. But if the body is calm and you're able to just be relaxed, then the pulse will be different. Also the depthness of it, there's so many different ways to look at it, right. How thin it is, how the pulse is it coming to the surface? Is it deep inside? Is it deficient? Like we talked about the spleen deficiency, so you would have to press it a little bit stronger.
Right.
So that's one of the way we diagnose is through the pulse.
Through the pulse and through the tongue, I assume. Also, I've seen stick your tongue out, right?
Yeah, it's an odd situation to have it, but the tongue is an internal organ, and if you look at the Chinese medicine tongue diagnosis, you see the front of the tongue is the heart, and if you have heart fire, you see redness in the front. The liver is the sides, so you might see like blemishes or cracks in the middle of the tongue. It has to do with the kidneys, with the spleen, with the stomach. So it gives us an overall view of the whole body.
Got it. Okay. It's fine. Don't diagnose your spouse. I saw your tongue. You calm down. We always see everybody's diagnosing everybody. My husband's this. My wife is this. Everybody's got a PhD in diagnosis on everything. Okay, next.
So some of the things we can do for the heart is nurture the nervous system. Right. Do some more meditation, more relaxation, calming down, staying cool, not eating hot foods. For the heart, for the person with a fiery personality, you need to give them some more cooling foods, and red color foods help with the
makes sense. Hard red, right?
Yeah, tomatoes, raspberries, strawberries, and watermelon. If it's really hot, watermelon also has a cooling aspect to it.
Got it. So if the body's hot, you need cooling foods. Yeah, and the verse is the opposite.
Yeah,
very interesting.
So the next one that we talked about, you mentioned the stomach and spleen. Right. If the stomach is off and it's actually hot, is it cold, you're gonna need warm foods.
Right.
So a lot of people that have stomach issues is more about worry, overthinking, and we have it's if they're solid, if things are going, the dependable people, they excel in relationship, they give, they wanna nurture other people, but on the other side, if it's off balance, they're confusion, they're overthinking, brain fog, they're giving too much, they're wearing themselves out, they're craving sweet foods, they're experiencing digestion problems. I had one of my patients actually, he's in real estate, he's stressed out, he's working really hard. He came in with a digestive disorder. We realized that he's so stressed out, he's having this acid reflux that we talked about, this the liver overacting on the stomach and spleen, and all these other symptoms, bloating and constipation. And so again, we have to move the chi that's blocked. And by doing the acupuncture, by putting the body back in balance, we're able to bring it to balance.
It's funny, the Zohar speaks about the spleen, and refers to the spleen as the Lilith, the Samech Mem's wife, the sadness and depression. And he says usually when a person's sad and depressed, he ends up going into immorality. But it's funny how it talks about the spleen and the black bile both being from the negative side. That it's more of it's where all the sadness, the stuckness, the mud, earth, and that's where in life we go through trauma, we go through situations, and we don't understand them. We get stuck, and then things just stagnate. So that's the area we have to be careful. Keep things flowing, keep things moving. I guess that's where you need the fire. Keep it moving, like in the new spirit. Keep the energy going, instead of just sitting there and thinking about the worst case scenario, which people are experts at.
So one of the ways to help with that is aromatic spices to warm up the food, to warm up your food. Cinnamon, ginger, cardamom are good option.
Moroccan fish.
The
Moroccans will get you into the thing, but the fish will heal you.
And then focus on your digestion. The Rambam talks about you have to sit down when you're eating. A lot of us eat on the run. And the Rambam talks about you have to sit down, you have to focus on your food. That's why we say brachot. That's why we're focusing, make sure that we have the proper intention when we eat. If we eat when we're in anger, that's going to bring that energy into our body.
Right.
So the Rambam talks about this. Eat when you're calm. It's better not to even eat if you're so stressed out, because it's going to affect your digestion.
And definitely not raw foods. Raw foods was like salads, and you think you're eating healthy salads. When you have that deficiency, it just makes things 10 times worse. Sushi, salads, which you think let me eat light. Right. That is the opposite of what you're eating, because that just it makes it more damp, and the more damp you are, the more sinuses you have, and the more it's like a fog. That's what I experienced, and it changed the diet. Literally, almost changed everything with the acupuncture. Right.
So exactly, that's why you want to avoid cold foods, beverages straight from the fridge or freezer. You want to eat more for this type of personality or this type of condition, more warm foods, and then yellow colored foods. Also, that's the color of the spleen.
Life, right? Makes sense.
Right, sweet corn, pumpkin, carrots, sweet potatoes, excellent option. But obviously, don't overdo anything. Like the Rambam talks about, you have to stay everything in moderation. You can't overdo the sweets, and you have to have.
But even the Rambam said in his book that when it's cold outside, you should eat hot foods. In the winter, eat hot foods. In the summer, eat cold foods. This is definitely very, very connected to our.
100%. It's all Hashem's refuah. It's Hashem's, the yin and yang, the night and day. Hashem's creation. It's all man and woman. It's all Hashem's creation. And
again, even more today. It's just even if you eat. I mean, the fact that there's so much inflammation and so much chemicals in the food and everything, it just makes things 10 times worse.
Yeah.
It's just and the stomach happens to be 90% of the serotonin in your. It's in your gut, so your mood is very connected to all of this. And I know when I was going through this, my mood was off.
Right.
I was just off, and I was eating, very healthy, but I was eating the wrong types of healthy foods.
Right.
So that's something people really, really need to understand, that you really have to go to an acupuncturist, get diagnosed, and see what's wrong with it, and it changes absolutely everything because of that.
Right, and you see people in Western medicine, people hold everything in the stomach. Cortisol is in the stomach.
Right.
And so whereas this cortisol in the stomach, things are not going to be able to work as well. So with the acupuncture, they actually did a study. People that have anxiety and stress, they were taking Paxil, I believe, one of the anti-anxieties. But if they did the acupuncture, it increased the results so much more than just taking some anti-anxiety.
But also the anti-anxiety medication also increases more inflammation.
Well, that can create other. That creates.
You fix one hole to put another hole here. That's the bottom line.
Right.
So unless you get to the root of it, all you're doing is putting you're taking out the flat tire, the hole from the flat tire, putting it in another place, and eventually that's going to be flat. It's very sad how things have gotten to this.
And that's where you always talking with Hashem, meditating, clearing your thoughts. So for a stomach personality, it would be more of walking, more of time to reflect, time to think, time to put things in perspective. and building meditations to break the cycles that people have, their thought cycles. So next one that we have is the lungs.
Okay.
The lungs have to do with metal in Chinese medicine, the sadness and grief. So metal personalities are high level, personal. They have integrity, discipline, rational approach to life. But if it's in disorder, they don't like things, and they're feeling overcritical at times, and especially when they're seeing people breaking rules, that affects them, and they get into themselves, and they start having respiratory conditions. The lungs have to do with respiratory condition. The common cold, they might have more flu symptoms, more allergy symptoms, dry skins, and they might have even mild rashes. So we see that, and I just had a patient, interesting, she had a frozen shoulder, and we start talking, and we're like, where did this frozen shoulder? She exercises, she eats well. It was after October 7th, about 2 months ago. She started having all this sadness.
Wow.
And she didn't process the information. And I don't know if as a people we have yet processed everything,
right,
and able to go to the grief period. And you had the class about, letting go of the grief and really, becoming to, but she hadn't. And that created stagnation in her shoulder. The channel for the lungs actually runs through the shoulder. The large intestine runs through the shoulder. And so there was a situation of worry, which has to do, again, we talked about the stomach. So there was stagnation. So with a few needles, we were able to open that up, and she felt a little bit looser and calmed her nervous system. And thank God she felt a little bit better, but that's something we need to work on. What's interesting enough, after the treatment, she had a rash on that area, which again, lungs have to do with the skin, has to do with rash. So it's interesting how the body manifests.
I know a friend of mine she had vertigo, and she went to doctors, nobody could diagnose her, and she went to an acupuncturist, a Chinese doctor, and she said it came from fear. It came from fear. Well, this is a fear. What is? And there was something she was worried about, and nobody else. They were trying to diagnose the vertigo somewhere else.
Right.
But the vertigo was connected to she did acupuncture, she did the Chinese herbs, and it went away.
Right. Right, and that's actually the next
which
organ
is kidneys.
we're going to talk about. Kidneys, yes, exactly. So if that's deficient, it's going to create that.
So kidneys is fear.
Kidneys is fear. Kidneys is fear. Should we go over what we can do for our lungs?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
So certain foods are white foods. That's the color of the lungs in Chinese medicine. Pungent flavor foods. So think about garlic, onions, ginger, shallots, those type of things to incorporate into a meal is great. And in traditional medicine also, it talks about foods that are white-centered. So think about bottom mushrooms, cauliflower, radishes, turnips, almonds, pears, apples. So those all things. The things to avoid is more of breads and sugars, and that creates inflammation. You talked about dampness. Those foods we want to avoid because those create mucus in the body. Dairy food creates mucus in the body.
Right.
We have sweet foods,
Dairy
fried
doesn't
foods.
seem to be a big, after a certain age, dairy just seems to be very bad for everything.
Right.
Stomach, sinuses, everything.
Right. That creates a lot of inflammation in the body.
Wow.
And another thing is stay social. We want to go out. Thank God we have such beautiful communities. Be involved in your community. Be involved in active and be social, and that can also help with somebody dealing with the depression and.
So grief is, you would say, the lungs is grief, not lack of letting go.
Well, letting go
Right.
can create that, right? If you're not letting go of things,
Right.
you hold it inside, and that creates.
So what's the difference between this and anger?
So
It's a different type of letting go.
That's a good question. I mean, if you're angry, you're going to create, if you're holding it, you're going to depress it, right? You're going to hold it inside. That's going to create stagnation. You're going to feel sad.
Maybe one's a short term and one's a long term one.
Right,
Could be.
right. The one affects the other, but that's kind of like the relationship they have with each other. So We gotta keep things.
Bottom line is you got to keep life flowing, and that's the bottom line. When you get stuck in something, you get stuck in life. You got to keep moving. That's clear evidence here. There's whatever's stagnant, you got to keep on moving.
Absolutely.
That's the whole blood flow. So we work out, we get blood flow. You work out, you move, you get blood flow. Blood flow changes everything. It's like everything's just a flow.
Absolutely. And when there's stagnation, it doesn't flow. We get the sickness. The sickness. So kidneys have to do with water. The emotion is fear, and so people that are it's balanced. They're strong will. They have willpower. They're determined. Their tendencies to they're sufficient. They're independent. They're knowledgeable. They're understanding. They seek knowledge. And on the other hand, if they're off balance, they're introspective. They focus too much on their inner world. Mm-hmm. They become withdrawn. They don't speak to other people. Anxiety, and that's the fear, right? And so we have to realize that we have to let go of these fears.
You would say depletion of energy would probably be related to kidney deficiency, right? Because you're just wasting all the energy on fear. What energy do you have left?
That's part of it. The other part of it has to do with the jing of the body, which is the essence of the body. And as you go through life, you're depleted by working hard, by playing hard. You're taxing yourself, right? So if that's depleted, on top of having the emotions of fear, on top of not taking yourself and balancing your life, you're gonna get conditions such as fluid imbalance, urinary issues, reduced libido. You're gonna experience mild aches and joint pain, especially in the knees and the lower back. We talked about, kidneys have to do also with the lower back. A lot of people that come in with back pain, they're like, why do I have this back pain? I didn't do anything. You're dealing with fear. You're dealing with something that's...
Back is the support of the person's life.
That's your support of it, especially financial, right? We see that a lot of financial fear can cause lower back pain. Actually, that was one of the reasons I got into acupuncture. I was dealing with a lot of fear in my life, a lot of anxiety, and I did some acupuncture. I was like, this is an amazing medicine.
Wow.
You just put a few needles in the kidney channel, and it just opens up things and lets things flow, and it releases all that pain and all that.
A lot of people are having fertility issues, and explain how that's related to the kidneys. And I've heard many people have go to acupuncture for fertility issues. I guess that's because those are reproductive organs?
Right, so the kidneys also have to do with the reproductive organ, with fertility, and when it's deficient or things are off balance, whether it's yin deficiency, that there's a lack of heat or cooling of the body, right? So there's more heat, and then you get hot flashes, and that goes into menopause even. But then on the other side, there's yang, too much heat, right? So you have to balance things out.
Right.
So a lot of the times with the acupuncture, we're able to get that flow, get that balance in, get the right herbs, and put the body back into balance, and then people get pregnant pretty easily.
Wow, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We would think you get caught up in the Western medication, you lose track of the simple imbalance.
Right.
Because what is it? Because the Western medication, does that actually fix that? What does that practically do?
Well, there is space for Western medicine,
of course.
right? Obviously,
when it's needed, of course.
When it's needed, certain situation, there's a certain age. But when you're younger, I have patients that come in when they're younger, they're so stressed out, they're so much in fear, so much in anxiety, they can't even get pregnant. That shouldn't be the case. Okay, when you get in your 30s, 37 is the age you kind of like revert, but okay, in that situation, IVF comes into play. Right. But if you add in the acupuncture, increases it by 26%, the ability to get fertile. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the research that was done.
Wow.
So definitely that helps with preserving the essence of the body.
What kind of foods are good for? What kind of foods?
So
are good
actually, black foods. That's and a pinch of salt. So black foods like berries, black beans, eggplants, wooden mushroom.
Black.
Huh? Yeah.
And avoid obviously anything because it's already overtaxed. Avoid stimulants.
Right. Any stimulants will definitely cause more harm. A little bit of salt is okay, but not a lot of salt, obviously. All in moderation. And
bitachon, trust in God.
That's the opposite. Right.
It's funny how the kidneys in Hebrew is I think they're called the same word as bitachon. I forgot the exact name, but the kidneys also in Hebrew means bitachon. Something I forgot the name of the. So obviously here you could see how every single body part, our emotions are basically, instead of suppressing our emotions, the practicality is they're telling us something. Your emotions are telling you something.
Yes.
If it's an issue with fear, it's telling you something. You lack trust. If it's an issue with the heart, you're lacking new vitality. You're lacking renewal. If it's an issue with the lungs, you have an issue with your lungs. It's you have to let things go. You have to get out of the past. If you have an issue with the liver, you have to stop controlling things. So at the end of the day, it's all spiritual fixes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a spiritual. It's all connected, right? The way.
But how would you start first with the spirituality or the diet or both?
Well, I start before I treat anybody. I start with a prayer to Hashem. Like the Rambam had a prayer. I have a prayer that I actually got from the previous Biala Rebbe, from my teacher, Dr. Yudah Frischman, that taught me.
That you should be able to hit the right organ.
That should be able to be a channel. Like we talk about being a channel all the time. Also, as a doctor, you're a channel.
Right.
So you want to come in as, humbled and come in as, I'm a channel for Hashem's healing, and let me be the right channel, give the right advice, the right treatment to help the person. So that's where it starts. And then, as I see it in my clinic all the time, we see it, especially after October 7th, we're seeing all the symptoms that are coming out. We're seeing, with stress from work, from life. It's part of it. So if you are spiritually strong, like what you teach us here, and everything that Rabbi Nachman teaches us, is really to have that harmony, and then from there you can go, okay, well, what do I do? Let me get the best doctor. Yeah. Let me seek the best advice.
Right. Again, according to your theory, it's your therapy. So if you really believe in this stuff, then you'll treat it on a holistic level, and I've done that all the time, and thank God it's helped. One day it's this issue, one day it's that issue, but it's always something, because after an event that we go through, there's always that emotion that sticks there, and you have to find a way to give it, bring it up to wisdom, because always that event will always create, it will just irritate. You have an issue in business. Next thing you know, the kidneys is going to trigger that event, and back and forth. So it's really very important. Our sages tell us that after you go through a real event in life, you have to really, really give it the right meaning and then turn it into wisdom. Don't keep it on escrow and let it, constantly repeat, because what happens is you constantly get irritated. It keeps on irritating the body part, and then next thing you know, you're in that horrible loop again.
Right.
Horrible loop.
And that's also we see in trauma, right? So let's say somebody had saw an accident, God forbid, and they're able to go help. So they go help that person, and then they come back. They're fine dealing with it, but they come back to their car and they're throwing up. That's like all of a sudden your body just realized what you went through. So we see that PTSD. We see, soldiers, God forbid, Hashem should bless them, Hashem should keep them safe.
Yeah.
But they go through so much of it. We saw that person that went out to help the victims and God forbid had a heart attack afterwards. It's so sad.
It's real stuff.
So we have to be able to process it and to heal as a people, to heal ourselves, to heal, to be able to become our best selves again, because that's what Hashem wants from us. He wants us to grow from this and to be able to develop.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us where you are in LA?
So I'm in Los Angeles, just outside of Beverly Hills area. It's Kimia Wellness. You can check us out online.
Beautiful.
We'd love to see you guys.
Beautiful. I will give a recommendation. I don't have it on me, but I have a person in Miami who's phenomenal. But I again strongly recommend if you have some chronic issues, acupuncture is definitely it's worked for me. I definitely educated myself about it, so I know already. Okay, I have this issue. I got to talk to his bodhidut about this issue. So I really got so detailed into this, and it really, really heals tremendously. And you're healing from the inside. Absolutely. Instead of medicating pain, next all you're doing is blocking out the pain, but you still have the problem. All this other medication, you're blocking out pain, but you still have the issue. You still have the issue. So It's like, having a shalom bayit issue and putting earplugs on. It hasn't fixed the issue. It has not fixed the issue. You still got to deal with it. So you don't hear it right now, but you still have the issue. So may God help us all. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for so much.
Seguro.
Exactly.